The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, Conda, power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi everyone, I am Macca19 and this is the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a weekly show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. Joining me as co-host, as always, Fishing Rick. How are you, buddy?
Oh, those smooth velvet tones. Very, very excited, Macca. What about you?
Always excited, mate. Always.
I'm actually a little bit depressed.
Why is that?
Well, we went to the Friday game and you were shooting the breeze there, but there seemed to be a general consensus every time a big footy person came up and met me for the first time. But they were like, oh, I thought you were older. What are they trying to say?
Well, surely that's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Do I act old or something for my age on the forums? I don't know. But
you sound about 70, so, it's...
I'm getting there, yeah.
Getting there.
Let's go to the walk to the park, yeah. All right, but that's me done. Have a good night. See you later.
Good work. And for the first time on the podcast, we are speaking with SgtSchulz.
Howdy, everyone.
Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Good to have you on.
That's the way. Look, as it's your first time here, how about we find out how you became a bit of a Port supporter?
It's probably part and parcel living down Semaphore way, but my dad was a Port supporter back in the day, went to a few SNFL grand finals, and I was going to Largs Bay when we entered the AFL, and everyone was just going crazy over football at that time, so probably didn't have any choice, but I love it.
Good stuff. What about, what's your favourite game?
You probably can't go past the 04 grand final, but the one that sticks out a lot recently is just the elimination final from last year. Like, it's probably perfect football in a lot of ways. Great day, good sun, prison bars. Just everything was perfect that day.
It was. Absolutely spot on. And your favourite player?
Don't mind Pitt, Dob. Pittard.
Oh!
Yeah, hey! Come on.
But yeah, I love
Pittard Nation is spreading.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever he gets the ball, something happens, either good or bad, but it's just, he makes the game exciting.
Good work.
That's it. Well, look, let's talk about the trial game. There was over 5,000 people that went along on Friday night's Alberton Oval to the Family Day to watch the club play its internal trials. More like probably match simulation than a true match. It was probably a bit of a relaxed affair. The players weren't hitting the bodies too hard. But what impressed you guys about Friday night?
I thought the skills, I've been to a few of the pre-season sort of internal scratch matches, and I just thought the skills this year were a lot better than they had been for a pre-season sort of trial match. I don't know if you guys felt that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, normally I leave these things wondering if they'd actually touched the football all summer, but the skill level was significantly higher than I've ever seen it at a internal trial.
Yeah, I thought everything was looked up a notch. Really, everyone's performance was looking pretty strong. They're looking pretty fit. I guess it was hard. I don't know. Must be the old person coming out of me. The only thing I was struggling with was working out the players half the bloody time, Macca, just with the changing of the Guernseys and everything else. So I think I lost track of who was who because people were saying that Andrew Moore had a good game, but I didn't really see him get the ball.
Yeah, I saw him get about 3 kicks, so I don't know what happened there. But I mean, that's probably my one criticism of the evening was that a lot of players were in different numbers. A lot of the Magpies guys were in different numbers, and there were even 2 or 3 players that didn't even have a number. So it was pretty hard to work out who was who of the guys that you couldn't recognise.
Yeah, I reckon they were taking it pretty seriously because there was a knock down the southern end with Schulz and someone else, and Schulz was on the ground for a little while, and I was sort of heart and mouth sort of stuff for a bit, but I don't think they were taking it quite too easily. I think they were trying to prove their point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're not going to take their own players out either. But there was enough. I think they tackled hard. They obviously, if someone was backing into the flight of the ball, they're not going to run through them like they would in a game. But there was still that physical aggression there, and I thought that was probably one of the highlights for me was Ollie Wine's natural physical aggression at the ball and getting the ball out. I mean, he's only in his third year, and I wrote a little blog on it today, but I mean, his core strength already, you can see why people are starting to liken his physique to our greatest player in Russell Weaver-Ham. Well, there you go. Nick will be happy into Russell Weaver, but we're not saying that he's that player, but he's got those attributes that sort of remind you of him, and he's probably the closest player in a long time to remind me of Russell Weaver.
What did we take? We took him with about pick 6. We stole him.
Yeah.
Pick 7.
Huge steal.
Was a steal.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the thing, he wasn't really overly enjoyed or enthused about coming here and his family in the beginning. And now look at his mum's working heavily with the club with, I think, with player retention or something like that. And, their house is sort of holiday destination of choice in the off-season. So it's an amazing turnaround. You'd think he's going to be with us for quite a future, and you'd hope so.
No doubt. I mean, he's looking really trim, but also strong as an ox, and he's got great power. He looks super fit. His skill level, is on point. He's going to have a massive year this year.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think he's also been working on his tan a bit. He's got a bit of tan going up.
He's a sexy beast, I got to say.
He's very broad, because I saw him at the Kersbrook Footy Oval, and I was really surprised. Like when he turned the corner, at first I didn't realise who it was, and then sort of, oh shit, it's Ollie Wines, and he's a big unit. He's like massively broad, and to think this is only his third year in the system, it's scary. And I know if we talk about Russell Weaver-Ham, he bangs on about the lack of time on ground he's had in the first 2 years. You'd think that dropping his body fat, increasing his muscle weight, he'd probably be hopefully getting into the high 70s and 80% this year, which will mean his disposal average probably would go up from 22 to in between 25 and 30, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, most players entering their third year are trying to put on a few kilos, but he's trying to lose a few kilos just so he can pick up his pace.
No, that's it. Look, along with Ollie Wines, I thought a lot of the big guns, had a pretty good evening. Boakey was great. Robbie Gray was arguably best on. Ebert was good. Harlett was good. I thought Westhoff played a really good first half as well. And even the next tier down, guys like Pittard, Broadbent, Kane Mitchell, Aaron Young looked really, really good. And Polak kicked a couple of absolute ripper goals from 50.
Oh, yeah, they were crazy. Like, one on the run from 50 and a set shot, and they were both, like, on pretty high angles. Yeah, he's got a crazy kick.
What about Paddy Ryder?
If he's allowed to play this year, or in the next couple of years, he's going to transform our team so much. He had an unstoppable 10-minute period in that second quarter where I think he took 3 really strong grabs and kicked, 2 goals, 1. He ended up with 3 or 4 goals and impressed both in the forward line and also in the ruck as well. I mean, he's just going to be a star.
I reckon he could almost play as just a pure forward.
He could, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's where we might see a fair chunk of him too. I think as a forward option, he's going to be preferred to Lobie. He's got a more natural mark to him, and I think he showed on Friday that he's got a great low down grab as well as a high playing influence above the head. So I really like the versatility that he's going to be bringing. I guess my one concern is, Macca, and I said it to you on Friday night, just some of the, and this is only my gut feel, it's no inside info or anything. I haven't been told anything by anybody. Just some of the murmurings and reading between the lines of some of the statements that are coming out by the club, just have this suspicion that they may be anticipating the suspensions might be a little bit longer than what they were originally hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I've heard, ranging from 2 games to 12 months. So you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully we find out pretty soon so we can prepare for it.
And what will happen then if it is 12 months? Do you think that is really going to threaten our quest for a grand final appearance this year?
I don't think so.
No?
No. We almost made it last year without Ryder, so Montfrees didn't have a very good year last year, so I don't think it's going to derail our season unless we let it.
Yeah.
Could derail the AFL season a bit if it gets to 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Essendon will be screwed, won't they? They've got no chance if it's a 12-month ban.
Yeah.
And you know what? If we took if we took Monfries and Ryder out of it, probably 12 months is really a fair penalty, to be honest.
Well, look, along with Ryder, we'll talk about another key forward, Johnny Butcher. He had a pretty good game, kicked 4 or 5 goals. He led well. He marked really strongly away on a bit of a smaller opponent for much of the game. His kicking action still a bit of a mixed bag. It looked really good early on in the first half, but after he started to miss a couple of kicks, you could almost sense he was going back to some bad habits there.
Yeah, I thought so. Sorry, Schulz. But look, I think it's a positive. He was getting the ball, and his defensive aspect to the game was fantastic. So, look, I don't think he's going to be in contention from round one, but what I saw, I think he should be a good presence for SANFL in the beginning and then push his case.
Yeah, he just has to. If he improves his kicking, he'll be a great player because the rest of his game is awesome. Like, he's really fast. Like, it looked like his hip problems are hopefully behind him. But yeah, there was a chase he had against Lobe from 30 metres back, and he caught him no problem. Lobe's not the fastest, but he's got a lot of pace.
I'd agree with that. He did look very, very quick, especially on the lead. He got a lot of space on his opponent, took some strong grabs, took a couple of pack marks, which I haven't seen him do for quite some time. And he ended up with, I think, around about 5 goals, 2, I think. And he had a couple of helicopter kicks and typically kicked one out on the full from about 25 metres out. But he had a really good game. The other one that I want to talk about is Johan Wagner, the guy that we got from The Recruit, the TV show. He looked absolutely stunning for periods of the match, but looked to run out of steam a little bit in the second half. But it was full steam ahead in the first half. His power and pace is not unlike Sean Burgoyne.
Yeah, I reckon he's a bit of a crowd favourite on Friday night. He had a kick at goal from under pressure near the pocket, and the crowd went wild when he kicked it. It was probably the loudest cheer of the game.
He did one run where he ran about, must have been about 100 metres full tilt, and he looked ridiculously quick, like the quickest player in our team by a long way. He's just got huge strength through his core. His gut running is fantastic. If he can get himself super fit so that he can actually run out a full game at that sort of AFL level, there's no reason why he couldn't press for AFL selection.
I was watching the warm-up sprints that Darren Burgess had organised before the game started. And yeah, Wagner was actually winning like 1 or 2 of those warm-up sprints. And like, if you were told that he was from a reality TV show and he was just a amateur footballer the year before, you wouldn't believe it.
You almost get a sense that he doesn't want to be known as some scrubber that just won a competition. He wants to make a bit of a name for himself.
Well, he's got the pedigree. I mean, he had played SANFL level, so he's definitely no mug. So
yeah,
I guess he just took the opportunity that presented, and good luck to him. And obviously he stood out in the show. I didn't get to see too much of it, but that was seen to be the general consensus. But yeah, I thought his pace was blistering and was going to create a great opportunity for him in the SANFL in the beginning, and I guess it's just going to really come down to how much ball he can get. That's probably the big challenge for a lot of the fringe players, if we call them fringe players. They don't probably get enough of their own ball at SANFL level. So I'm talking like Brendan Archie, Wagner, who's coming in for the first time, so he hasn't got that much of a history with it. And then obviously Bird Jones and Amon, they're the players, and even Paul Stewart to a lesser degree. They're the players that we're going to be looking for to really get their consistency up at SANFL level and influence and push for senior selection. What about Brendan Archie, Macca? I thought his second half was pretty good.
Yeah, his first half was a little bit disappointing, seemed to get lost a little bit, but once he changed teams into the black team, he looked a lot better in that second half and really controlled that half-forward line pretty well, took some grabs and had a play in about 4 or 5 goals.
Oh, what about that controversial guy next to us? It was what he's saying, his head's on the chopping block and he won't be there by the end of this year. I thought that was a bit rough.
Don't know who that guy was, mate.
I don't know either, but I thought that was a bit rough. I reckon Brendan's still a very good chance to be with us for a few more years. I'm very optimistic. I thought at the end of last year, his reaction time looked to have sped up beyond what you need for SANFL level. I think he's just a confidence player and a confidence guy and just needs that going. And he definitely looked a better fit in what I thought was a stronger side in that black top side in the second half, and obviously his performance reflected with that as well.
Yeah. I think he just needs to be a little bit cleaner. He often fumbles his first touch. If he can get that first touch right, he could really push for AFL selection as well this year. What did you think of Dougal Howard?
Is that the big ruckman?
Yeah, he was kind of playing centre half back and a little bit up forward.
Was it? He wasn't 25, was it?
No, he had no number.
Yeah.
I thought for a big forward sort of player, he actually, there was a few instances down south on the ground where he's actually had quite good skills below his knees, going for the ball, and he had a good few second efforts. And a few of the old blokes behind me sort of were talking about him in pretty high praise. So I think he's pretty popular already, and with a name like Dougal, I think everyone loves him.
Where can you go wrong? I mean, honestly. I thought he had really good pace, quite a good leap. His marking ability was all right. He almost took 2 or 3 big pack marks. He just spilt the ball at the last second, but if he could grab them, he could be a bit of a player. He moves across the ground really well for a big guy.
I think it was a good decision by the club to draft a whole bunch of tools in the same year, so they sort of push each other, and we've got a 1 in 4. We've got a guaranteed decent forward somewhere coming through.
Yep.
Well, I still think Logan Austin looked pretty strong with the training I saw last week. I know he's injured at the moment, but he's another one that you just don't know. And it was interesting to see last week Harvey was training with the defenders for a little bit too. So don't know if they're looking at maybe just doing something a little bit different there with Mitch Harvey.
Yeah. He's someone that probably disappointed a little bit on Friday evening. I'm just not sure he's got the athleticism to make it. He's got the skills. I like his marking ability, but it's just Ryan Willett's Mark II at the moment, I think.
Could we take anything out of game plan? I didn't really see much game plan sort of orientated football on Friday night.
I thought it was just rapid play on sort of at any opportunity. It was just almost a bit kamikaze football.
Lots of handballs behind the play, and lots of run. I thought it was all right. It was pretty much just a slight adjustment on what we were doing last year, I thought. The other person that I want to probably talk about a little bit was Carl Amon. He's probably been the most talked about person on our list this pre-season, but I thought he disappointed a little bit, just didn't seem to get anywhere near the football.
Who was that?
Carl Amon.
Yeah, well, he's been pumped up all pre-season, isn't he? He probably was on a hiding to nothing because everyone's been pumping his tyres, and I guess this is where it's really hard because there wasn't the structure and the 4-quarter positioning that you're going to get now that the NAB Cup games are starting for us. So maybe he was a little bit lost with that format, and I agree. I was hoping to see a little bit more, and I guess we'll just have to wait for a couple of pre-season games, and hopefully we'll see a bit more of him from there.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he didn't get too much of the ball, but I thought when he did get it, he looked fairly composed, and he put a few good tackles in, and has a pretty good kick. I think it's a bit hard to judge him on just the game today because last year he was quite good in the SNFL.
Yeah. Once he gets the ball, he's fantastic. It's just a matter of him getting more of the ball, I think. And once he can do that, he'll definitely push for AFL selection. I really hope he plays this week on the weekend in the NAB game, because I want to see him against a proper opponent, I guess you'd say. Well, look, let's talk about the third and final week of our team previews, where we look at every team in the AFL and see what we're going to face when we come up against them in 2015. We're up to Richmond, who, of course, we played in that fantastic elimination final last year, a 57-point win. We also lost by 20 points to them in round 17 last year. We played them once this year in round 8 at home. What are we expecting from Richmond?
Box of chocolates.
Much of a muchness. They didn't really bring in anyone this year, did they?
No, they brought in Taylor Hunt. He's probably the most ready-to-go player. And then Nathan Drummond looks all right. A couple of kids. They didn't really lose too many players that had a big influence over their game, except for maybe Daniel Jackson. He's a bit of a loss for them. But look, I think they've still got a great young list. They've got a fantastic midfield group and a strong defensive group. for me, it's just a matter of coaching and whether Hardwick can get them a little bit further into the finals.
Yeah, it'll be all internal improvement this year.
I think their gap is their top end players are fantastic, and their bottom end players there's probably too much of a gap, and their top end players like Delidio and Martin can flake in and out a little bit too often, so that causes them to have that consistency issue. And I guess the problem for Hardwick is he's in his 4th year now. He probably should have achieved more with what he's had, and he hasn't been able to, and has that maybe created a bit of a bad culture within that playing group, which might infiltrate again. But I mean, they're one that could finish top 4 or bottom 4, bloody Richmond. You just don't know what you're going to get.
You never know. No, that's right. I think they need some more support up forward. Rewalt's a fantastic forward, as we know. Vickery, I think, gets a bit of a hard knock for his output. I think he actually kicks quite a lot of goals. But they do need someone else up there. Maybe Liam McBean might be able to star this year. He's kicked a lot of goals in the VFL.
Who? Did you say,
I knew that was coming.
Did you say they drafted Mr. Bean?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Right. Yes. No. Haven't heard of him. But yeah,
look, I can't see them having a miracle run home again like they did last year, where they won, 9 or 10 games straight to sneak into the finals. They've got a pretty tough run when you look at their fixture. They play North Melbourne, Freo, Essendon, Collingwood and Carlton twice, so there's probably not a lot of easy games there.
What was did they have a reason behind the really slow start? Was there problems in the pre-season for them last year? Because their start was 3 from 10 or something?
Yeah, I think it was even worse than that. I think it was like 3 from 12.
Yeah, surely they would have identified the problem there, so they won't have that sort of start again this year.
No, you wouldn't think so. I've got them finishing around, the 12-win mark and maybe coming into the finals on percentage.
Well, didn't Rewalt come out and criticise the coaching a bit like Michael Clark did this week after the New Zealand game? But wasn't he very cynical of what the coach's game plan was? And
yeah, he said they were trying to copy Hawthorn too much, but they didn't really nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I mean, if they've found their niche and how they want to play football instead of trying to copy everyone else, then you never know. They've got the talent to go pretty far into the finals. It's just getting their headspace right. And I guess what can we expect when we face them in 2015? Are we expecting a little bit of redemption for the finals loss?
Well, they'll be pumped. They were embarrassed, weren't they? So they're going to be coming out breathing fire. But look, I think we should be able to have their measure quite comfortably, and I'll be disappointed if we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could stand losing to them. But yeah, that in the 9-week winning run they had, they did play top 4 football for a bit there. So they can dish up anything.
Yeah, they do look like a final side at their best. I've been pretty confident of winning, but I can't see it being a thrashing like the final was.
That was exceptional.
It could be another thrashing. That would be fine.
It would be fine. All right, on to St Kilda, who won the Spoon last year. We played them once this year in round 18, again at home. We played them once last year, which was a 70-point win when Chad Wingard took Mark of the Year. They've made some significant changes to their list. They brought in Tim Membry. They obviously had the number 1 pick. They got Patrick McCartan. They got in Hugh Goddard. Ahmed Saad's back. But their outs are pretty significant as well. You're looking at sort of Clint Jones. Lenny Hayes is a massive loss. Reece Stanley, James Gwilt. They've lost a lot of talent there.
Yeah, 33 games of talent.
They got the brains trust of Port Adelaide there, though, so surely they're going to be on an upward trajectory. Is that right? Have I got that right?
I reckon they've got a really good core group of young players now, but they're very, very young. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's hard to see them improving this year. I think maybe next year and beyond, they might be a little bit better. I can't really see them getting out of the bottom 4 this year. I think they're far too reliant on Nick Riewoldt, especially now that they've traded out their second best key position forward as well. I like their young, talented midfield, but there's no real sort of tough old bodies to take the brunt of the work this year. And I think they really need someone like Spencer White or Patrick McCartan to step up this year and become a viable second key position forward for them.
Yeah, what he said. Does anyone actually care about St Kilda?
Not really.
Is there a team less cared about than St Kilda other than maybe the Bulldogs?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Maybe Melbourne?
Maybe Melbourne, yeah.
I mean, do they have any hope this year, really? Let's face the facts.
No. I'm tipping bottom 2 again, and it wouldn't surprise me if they finish with the spoon again.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be pretty depressing for a St Kilda supporter, but I guess the positive is that they're probably used to this sort of stuff, aren't
they? Yeah. Well, I guess it's just about getting games into the kids this year. I mean, Jack Nunes is a fantastic young midfielder. Jack Stephen, again, is another fantastic young midfielder. Luke Dunstan had a great first year last year. Guys like Billings, maybe Curran, Ross, Saunders, Longer in the ruck. I mean, they've got a lot of talented kids. It's just about getting games into them and getting them up to sort of AFL standard.
Yeah, it's a bit different to what it was when Melbourne were finishing bottom, is that if you're a St Kilda fan, you can actually see where the club's going because you've got this good group of players, whereas when Melbourne was struggling, you didn't really see any future at all with that playing group.
Yeah. I mean, round 18 at home, you'd be hoping for a big win there on the eve of the finals.
Slaughter. But we don't handle the dew. Could be getting a bit dewy at that time of the year. Could be one of those sort of Essendon all over sort of games.
Yeah, but Essendon are actually decent.
That's true. They weren't in great form really when they came to us, I thought, and they still knocked us over. I'm just wondering if teams like St Kilda are going to go really ultra defensive, sort of like Melbourne did this year, and really try and flood around the ball to try and slow down our movement.
I don't know. If you're a fan, would you rather your team score 30 and you lose by 30 or 40, or your team scores 70 and you lose by twice as much? When we go to the football, you want to see scoring. You don't want to see.
You want entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you're losing, so long as you're getting entertained a little bit, then you sort of still got a reason to go to the footy. It's when you're getting absolutely thrashed and you're kicking 5-7 every game. And that's when you sort of lose the will to live.
Yeah, those.
Well, look, on to Sydney, who are probably one of the most talked about teams this off-season as well. They've lost Nick Malcheski. They haven't really brought in anyone else. They'll be hoping for a lot of improvement in their next batch coming through. We lost both the games against them last year in round 14 and round 20. We played them twice this year. The first game at home, round 2, and then round 14 away as well. There seems to be quite a wide range of opinions on where Sydney are going to finish this year. I think they're going to be right up the top and probably my pick for the premiership this early on. But a lot of people think that they'll start their downward spiral this year.
I think they've still got too much depth. I think that's what you're leaning to, Macca. And any team that's got Buddy Franklin in it, if he's fit, is going to be a very hard team to beat. I mean, look, I've still got nightmares from what he did to us at the SCG, and he pretty much killed us that game and took the game away from us that we should have probably won. So, look, I'm with you. I reckon they might drop down a little bit, and they might just be short of making the grand final, but they're a well-oiled machine. They're still very strong, and Malcheski's going to hurt them not being there, but overall I think they're still going to be around the place.
Yeah, I reckon they're a lot, in my opinion, top 4 still. I think it's a bit of a misconception, like how close to the cliff they are. Like teams like Freo, for my opinion, are a lot closer to dropping away than Sydney.
I'd agree. There's the conception that that because they got thrashed in the grand final, a lot of teams that get thrashed in the grand final struggle a little bit the following year. But I think it's actually going to help them out, and they'll be pretty dirty about that result, especially their midfield where they got absolutely thrashed. A midfield of Kennedy, Parker, McVeigh, Jack, Hanbury, Jetta, Bird. I mean, they just keep coming and coming. They're all stars. It's a pretty young midfield group except for McVeigh. You look at their forward line with Franklin and Tippett up there. I mean, they're going to be super hard to beat again.
I mean, just rattle off what their starting midfield would be.
Well, you'd be looking at Kennedy, Parker, Jack, Hanbury, and Jetta.
That's a bloody good...
It's a pretty mean midfield, isn't it?
That is a bloody good midfield. And at the SCG predominantly, feeding it to Tippett and Franklin. Tippett still plays, doesn't he? Hasn't quit or anything?
No.
Soft cockleitis, anything like that?
No.
No? Yeah, so I mean, feeding it down to the forward line from their small oval, they're going to be a hard team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They'll need more coming through from their second stringers and third stringers, guys like Brendan Jack, Dean Towers, Zach Jones, Nankervis. They'll be hoping that these guys push through and make a name for themselves in 2015.
Do you reckon Isaac Heaney will be able to force himself into the team this year, or?
I think they'll be hoping so. I think he's injured at the moment, which is a bit disappointing because I was really hoping to see him in the NAB Cup, but I think their plan was to play him off a half-back flank. And I think if he's fit, he'll definitely get games, a lot of games.
Because I was doing a little bit of reading about him, and Melbourne actually tried to get him with pick 2 this year, but because he's an academy player, Sydney had first choice at him. So he would have been a top 3 draft pick if it was all fair dinkum.
Yeah, a lot of people are calling him the most complete player in the draft this year. So they got an absolute steal getting him.
No wonder Eddie's kicking up a fuss.
That's right. Well, look, the 2 games we play against them this year, what are we expecting?
1-1.
1-1?
Yeah, that sounds fair.
I think it's reasonable. I think I'd be biased and one-sided if I said 2-0 our way. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I mean, if we can walk away 1-1, I mean, we were right in it with Adelaide Oval last season, and we just were in that real flat spot and just couldn't drive our way through it. But it's sort of, that game sort of showed me that we were on the way back too. We weren't far off from where we were. So I think, when we play them early, don't we? Round 2 or?
Round 2, yeah.
And so I think we're going to be up and firing, and they're notoriously bad starters. I mean, what they lost to, can't remember the second team, was GWS and someone last year. So, I would imagine that we should be able to catch them on the hop in round 2, and then obviously the second game is just going to be, well, how good are we and how good are they at the time?
Yeah. That's it. Well, look, let's talk about West Coast, the Eagles. We played them at home as well in round 6. We played them once last year, which was a 14-point win away from home in round 5. They've lost 2 fantastic players in Dean Cox and Darren Glass, and sadly they've also lost Mackenzie for the season as well with a knee injury. So they're looking like they might struggle this year, especially in terms of toll support.
Yeah. It's a strange thing. There was a couple of years ago they were touted to finish top 4, but it's just they sort of lack a midfield a bit. I don't know. They've got the Brownlow medalists, but their midfield just seems a bit hollow. It
is. They're all sort of one-paced and they're all pretty similar to each other. They lack skills on the outside, and I don't know. Their midfield, it should be better than what it is.
Yeah, they're just a little bit underperforming, aren't they? They were touted as one of the best midfields only a couple of years ago, and then they just fell off a cliff at the click of a finger. And they just haven't sort of been able to get back up. But they've got great names there, but something just isn't gelling. So, and I'm with you, Macca. I think it's a bit of a worry, the injury plus the retirements of a couple of key players, especially Darren Glass. I mean, he was a great captain and a great player for them, and is he one of those players that sort of kept everyone else accountable in the team unit? And will that change the dynamic of the West Coast team? So it's going to be interesting to see how they go at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I'd be tempted to say that Darren Glass and Dean Cox were the top 3 defenders and ruckmen in the competition last year. And yeah, they're losing them in the same year while not really picking much else up on ends. It's hard to see them really challenging this year.
I can't see them making the finals. I've got them a similar sort of spot to this year, maybe 9 or 10 wins and somewhere between sort of 11th and 14th.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. And I think we should be able to win, what did you say? We've got 2 games against them?
I think.
1? Well, we should be able to win that game. We've got 2 including the pre-season, I guess.
Well, look, the final team, Western Bulldogs, they have gone through probably the biggest transformation of any club in the AFL this year. We played them twice, round 10 at home, round 19 away. We played them once last year, which was in round 14, where we won by 72 points at home. And we've actually lost 8 of the last 10 games against the Dogs, so that's probably something that needs to change as well. But you look at the players that they've lost this year, I mean, it's just a who's who of Dogs footy, really. I mean, they've lost their captain Griffin, they've lost Sean Higgins, Adam Cooney, Gian Siracusa, Jones, who played a lot of games for them up forward, Jason Tutt, lost Williams as well to retirement. But they've brought in Tom Boyd, they've got Biggs from Sydney, they've got Cordy Hamling, and a bunch of kids. I mean, that's just a lot of changes. It's hard to see where they're going to gel together.
Yeah, it's a long-term vision when it comes to the Western Bulldogs.
Well, they're not going to gel together. Did they have some sort of cultural issue there, which caused this exodus? It's very strange. It was almost sort of like the cleansing that Matty Primus was trying to do, but wasn't allowed to do at Port Adelaide.
I guess you'd say they've got rid of quite a few or quite a bit of dead weight. I mean, Cooney's sort of old and got injury issues, and Higgins always sort of injured. Griffin's probably the biggest loss for them there. But, I mean, they got arguably the best, young key position forward out of it. So you never know. I mean, the sad thing for them is that they've lost Libba as well to another knee injury. So they've pretty much lost their starting midfield from last year.
Yeah, it's hard for to see it for Bulldogs fan, really. They've lost over 1,000 games experience this year on outs. It's just scary.
Yeah, they're gonna struggle. I mean, I'm interested to see how Boyd goes. I mean, when we were struggling, it was sort of the trade play that I was hoping for, because I thought we really needed to bring in a massive key forward. Obviously, Hoff's picked up his game, and Schultz has been a legend, so it's sort of covered that a little bit. But I could see where the Bulldogs were coming from with that trade of Boyd, and I mean, it's a big roll of the dice to be paying someone so much for such an experience. But he's a big unit, and that's one thing I will be interested to see with their side.
One thing Tom Boyd will bring to the Bulldogs is hope for the fans.
And the other one's Bontempelli. I mean, what a gun player is he. I love watching that kid play. I mean, Mish was talking about him 2 seasons ago, wasn't it, Macca?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, and he raved highly of him, and he showed us last year some of his skills. He was an amazing player for a young player. So, yeah, like you said, Schultz, he's going to have the supporters are just going to have to look for the youth and the optimism that they'll produce in a few years. But I think they're going to be in for a few hidings as well.
I think similar to St Kilda, they've got a lot of very, very classy, very, very good kids. It's sad about Liberatore, but they've got Jack McRae, who just had a super season last year. You look at guys like Dalhouse. Then sort of guys like Bontempelli, Jake String has got a lot of talent. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. Even some younger guys like Lockie Hunter and Nathan Hrovat as well. They've got a lot of talent there. It's just about putting it together and finding a system that works for them. They need to find probably another key forward, which Boyd will help with, and maybe some class down back as well.
Would you say their younger players are the best of the bottom 4 sides?
I would say so. They've definitely shown the most at this point.
Still probably a bit early to tell, though, isn't it? It's one of those things you need to look back at season 4 and then go, well, yeah, that player's really come on. But yeah, look, they've got promising players, and I'm just shattered for Liberatore because he's a great player, and all the players that have done knee injuries so early. I heard Peter Larkin on the radio earlier today, and he was saying he's been following the trends of the knee injuries, and basically 75% of AFL footballers' knee injuries come before round 11. So, this is the time, for whatever reason, that they get them, but it's never a good thing. So, and that's going to be hurtful for the Bulldog team because he's such an influential player.
Yeah, a lot of players came out on Twitter and put their condolences to Liberatore a bit, sort of sympathising with him.
Well, you never want to see star players go down.
doesn't matter how popular or how hated they are, you don't want to wish ill on anybody. And it's not good for the game when the best players aren't out there playing. That's what we want to see.
Definitely.
But we should beat the Bulldogs quite comfortably, and I'd be disappointed if we don't.
They are a bit of a bogey side, but I'd be expecting 2 wins as well. Footy is back.
Footy's
Yes!
back!
We play West Coast at Norwood Oval on Sunday afternoon. Matthew Nix is coaching. Rick, what do you think about that?
Who?
Matthew Nix.
No, I'm only joking. What do I think? I'm thinking I'm going to vomit that I have to potentially go to Norwood Oval to watch Port Adelaide play West Coast. But I think it's good. I think it's great. It's good humility by Ken to not be insecure about his position. He's got no reason to be insecure anyway. I mean, I think he'd almost get the keys to the Port Adelaide City the way he's going. But it's a great opportunity for him just to sort of sit back and reflect. And we all talk about people picking Ken's IP, so to speak, and he's training all these people up to potentially leave us. But it gives him an opportunity to sit back and maybe see something that the other coaches do and go, hey, you know what, I never thought about it that way. And so it's going to help him harness his coaching skill as well. And it doesn't matter who and what we are, we all can learn and become better. It doesn't matter what age it is. So, and I think it's a good show of sign of trust in Matthew to say, you know what, regardless of what happens, we want to help you refine our skills. And we lost Richo 2 seasons ago, Walsh a season ago, or this season. If we lose Matthew Nix, well, what it means is what a lot of Port supporters have been saying is that Port Adelaide is a breeding ground for good coaches, as we have in the last 20 years, and it just means we're a more attractive destination for quality coaches to come to, a la Michael Voss wanting to come and re-harness his skills in the AFL system. So I applaud the decision and look forward to seeing what he can do.
It feels a lot better than the end of 2012 when we couldn't find a coach.
That's it. No more coaching by Skype, which is great.
Yeah, but a lot of that stuff's driven by the media as well, isn't it? You know, the media wants to sort of kick a dog when it's down if they can, and Port Adelaide was the whipping boy back then. And if a coach is too much of a coward to want to take a side or coach a side because they're not performing poorly, they're performing poorly, or they might have some apparent financial difficulties, well, I think that's more a reflection of the weakness of the person with the decision they're making more than the footy club. And Ken showed strength in his decision making, and he's reaping the rewards, as is the club right now.
Well, what do we hope to see on Sunday evening? Do we hope to see a win? Thinking back last year against the Crows, we rested 15 or 16 of our best team in NAB 1 last year. Do we think we'll see the same thing this time around?
No, I think we'll play a stronger side. And I think from the media reports we'll play a weaker side in round 2. But what I'm hoping to see is a very aggressive Port Adelaide. And when I say aggressive, I mean aggressive at the body. I think now our players are physically mature. And I made comment to you on Friday, Macca, that you can really see now that all our players are thicker, not only through the core, but our upper body, our chest and shoulders. So, you know, they've all been in the system for 3, 4, 5 years, and so they're developing that muscle mass in their upper body. So this is the time for our playing group as a whole now to actually start intimidating some more sides and be willing to be physical. And it doesn't matter if it's a pre-season game. I'm really hoping to see a physical aggression at the body, which will then result in us winning the ball and extracting the ball.
Well, we need to hit the ground running pretty much. We've got such a big start to the season, so many huge, crucial games, which will determine where we finish. We really need to hit the ground running, and what better time to start than this one. I want to see a couple of young kids play, though. I really want to see more from Carl Amon. I want to see Archie get a go. Tom Cleary as well down back. I'd love to see him get some decent game time. And also Butcher up forward.
I guess one way you could look at it is that with injuries to Wingard and Trengrove at the moment, it sort of opens up that window of opportunity for a few players. So they might be trying to prove themselves that, hey, look at me, I'm doing pretty well. Pick me for round one. Let those guys have a little bit of rest.
Yep.
So there'll be a few going for it.
Well, you'd think, it would be Homch, Cleary, Alapate, the three key defenders for this game. Oh, it'd be Jonas, wouldn't it?
I would think
be
so.
Jonas, Homch, and Alapate, and Cleary the spare.
I think we might rest Jonas and play Cleary.
Yeah. Well, he's a very physical player, isn't he, Jonas? So it wouldn't hurt resting his body. I mean, I don't think he's going to get too much if he's playing or not playing the pre-season games. And it'll be interesting. I'd like to see Cleary actually have a run in the midfield.
Yeah, that was probably the disappointing part about Friday was he just didn't get any midfield time. We've heard that he's been training with the midfield group, but he was pretty much stuck at full back for the whole evening.
Yeah, well, we had we still had the core midfielders in that practice match, didn't we? So I'd imagine our key players like Robbie Gray, maybe Travis Boak won't be playing. So that means our midfield rotations will be a little bit down, and so that will open up opportunities for Tom to run through there, I guess. So who will be the key forwards? I wouldn't expect SgtSchulz to be playing. I reckon Westhoff might play, though.
I think we'll play Westhoff, Schultz and Butcher.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Butcher in a pressure situation at sort of higher level than SANFL.
Do you reckon Kane will be playing?
Mitchell, yes. Yes, I do. Probably not. No, I think they'll probably rest Corns and play him next week instead.
Well, I mean, he's such a fit individual. He could probably just come in for round three, couldn't
he doesn't really need to... I guess it's important to get sort of up to game pace straight away, but with him, it's going to happen anyway, so there's no harm in resting him.
Hopefully we get a good crowd down there, down at Norwood.
Traditional home ground of the Cooper Stadium in the eastern suburbs.
No, it's good. We need to get a bit of a presence in the eastern suburbs.
Thank you very much, AFL, for this fixture and our arch rivals.
Well, what did you guys didn't really make a comment when I quickly went on about it. Is it an issue to you, or do you think it's is it suitable? Is there much benefit us taking it to the parade? If you're a Port supporter living around Norwood Way, is it that much of an inconvenience to travel to?
It's just the AFL sharing it around. That's all it is. Well, we played at Alberton last year. We played at Richmond Oval last year. This year we're playing at Norwood. That's all it is.
Initially, I was a little bit sceptical, but I think it's actually quite a wise decision because I think on that section of the city, our membership base is about 5%. So if we can get a few down there to watch the game, it's better for a few, membership and everything.
I'm not convinced. Are you going to send Essendon down to Victoria Park to play a home game? No, not really. I just think the benefit to us as a footy club having the fixture at Alberton Oval from a financial perspective is a lot more beneficial and would outweigh the benefit of trying to harness a couple of extra members from around the eastern suburbs. I don't think playing there is going to make any difference. And it's not like it's a massive travel time. I can see the benefits in playing down south at Noarlunga or Victor, where it is an hour and a half drive to get there, and so it is a bit more of an inconvenience to people. But playing at the parade, but I hope the comments I've seen online from people saying, well, they're not going to go because it's at Norwood Oval. I hope people can look past that. It is, because at the end of the day, our footy team needs our support, and you know what? If you're that adamant about not wanting to support Norwood, just don't buy anything there. Bring a hip flask or a water bottle or whatever, and a snack, and just take your own goodies.
I couldn't care less where we play. I just want to see us play.
Yeah, I'm ready for footy.
All right, boys. We will see you at the ground.
Awesome. Catch you then.
Fantastic. Get on the pair.
Yibba.
Go.
Put out Footy Club.
Puts the ball across towards a teammate. Rick's hand pass though, slapped, and now Need's away. Everything falling into place. Need, the beneficiary, running down towards the 50. Lines up, vacant goal square. How about this? This is breathtaking.